Hello, A Taste of AZ listeners. I am your host today, Luke Irvin, and we are here in Downtown Tempe with some beautiful juices in front of us, an awesome spot that I've never been before. Our guest, could you go ahead and introduce yourself and where we are today?
So my name is Fares Tarabichi. We are at Foch Cafe and Bistro on Mill Avenue in Downtown Tempe, right on Mill Avenue and 6th Street.
Okay, and say the name again.
Foch.
Foch?
It's F-O-C-H, but it's pronounced Foch.
Okay.
It's after a street my grandparents grew up in Paris. It's called Avenue Foch in Paris. We realized afterwards, after choosing the name, the spelling of it is not ideal.
Sure.
But we're having fun with it, so we're liking it.
Well, it's like if you see the word Foch is how you would pronounce it in English, and just imagine saying it with a little bit of a French accent. It makes sense to me. So, Foch, right?
Foch,
I got that?
absolutely.
Okay, great. And so,
it's like push, but with a French.
Sure, yeah. And so what is this spot? How would you describe what Foch is?
So it's like a French-American fusion place. We're a brunch spot, but we have lunch and dinner. It's a chef-driven space concept. So my partner is a chef, very talented chef, Timothy Richardson. So we have different dinner menus every month. He loves to be creative. Really fantastic stuff that he does. So we're French-inspired American cuisine.
Well, and you've got more things as well, right? That's probably the most simple version of it because these beautiful juices are sitting in front of me. Tell me a little bit about your juice program.
Yeah, so I have another company called AZ Liquids. It's a fresh pressed juice and coffee company. We sell to a couple of different locations across the valley: Delight, Healthy on the Go, Tamiko at Sky Harbor Airport, Eat Clean Phoenix. So we sell juices and coffees. I actually sell them at the Crepe Club and the Bodhi, which is two other concepts that I own as well.
Okay.
And then we do the juices. We use the juices in the bar to make fresh press cocktails, which are fantastic.
Wow.
I mean, our Bloody Mary here at Foch is made fresh in house. We use tomatoes, celery, different types of vegetables, and so there isn't that added sodium that you would buy in a store-bought brand. It's really fresh, so that really separates us. But everything else, the watermelon mojito is made with fresh pressed watermelon.
Okay.
So we try to use real, honest ingredient, and it really shows in the quality of the food.
And that's almost like the ethos of like French and kind of more European cuisine, really, but French in large part as well. And then the technical side of it as well, which I'm sure we'll get into with some of the menu items. Mm-hmm. But as I sip on, what are these two juices here?
So the first one right there is just straight watermelon.
This one?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's fantastic. It's very refreshing, very hydrating. And the second one is called the Greens O2. It's a great way to get your greens. It's pineapple, apple, spinach, and kale. But it's a great way to sneak in your greens during the day, and it's one of the most popular items we have on azliquids.com.
So I'm going to start sipping on these, but while I do, tell me a little bit about your upbringing. Was food something that was always in your life?
Absolutely. I actually grew up in Syria, halfway across the world.
Wow.
I came to the U.S. I was 17. My father had restaurants when I was growing up, and I'm very lucky and fortunate to have been able to travel a lot. I used to go to France every year. We used to travel across Europe. So I used to get embedded in the cultures through food, which is something that's always been very fascinating to me. So after graduating college, I was working at a consulting firm in Dubai called PwC. And I knew I wanted to do my own thing, and I always had a passion for food. So I came back and I opened up a crepe cart here on ASU's campus.
Really?
And that really, I fell in love with the hustle. I fell in love with making food and just seeing people's expressions when they try the delicious food. And it's been 7 years, and I'm loving every moment of it.
So you mentioned you have other concepts as well. Whereabouts are those?
Most of them are on ASU's campus. So I have a concept called the Crepe Club. It's sweet and savory crepes. We have one at Scottsdale Fashion Square Mall and another one on ASU's campus.
Okay. And so what is it that brought you to the ASU area?
So I went to school ASU.
Okay.
My brothers came to school here, so I kind of followed them, and I've been in love with ASU ever since. My business has started here. They're growing here. I bleed maroon and gold. I mean, I've been so fortunate to be part of this institution and growing with them, and they've been very good to me.
Nice.
They've been very supportive, and I'm just very grateful.
So you mentioned you grew up in Syria. I am familiar enough to know that Syria is in kind of a tumultuous time right now, but I'm not familiar enough to know kind of when that all began and kind of unfolded the way it has now. So what was it like for you growing up in Syria? Is it kind of what you see on the news now?
No. So when I was growing up, it was very peaceful. None of this that you see today was happening. It was... I mean, you really grew up, don't know what religion you are, you don't know what any of this is. And it was just, I was in a French school, so there was a lot of international kids there. It was such a beautiful, it was a beautiful place to grow up. I'm very fortunate. It's very sad to see what's happening now. This kind of started about 10 years ago. Fortunately, I was in college when all that was happening.
Here at ASU.
Here at ASU,
yep.
Which is probably what saved me because I was able to apply for asylum. I'm an American citizen now.
Okay.
But I was able to apply for asylum here, and I was able to stay here, which I get that many people did not have that opportunity. And I'm just very lucky to be able to be here, have the opportunity to be here. But it's not very different. There's a lot of different things growing up in Syria than it is here, but a lot of it is very similar too.
Okay. Well, so you also mentioned that your grandparents lived on the street Foch. I'm saying that right?
Yeah.
Okay. And that's in France, right?
Yeah.
So
Paris.
what is like, how are they in France and you're in Syria? What is kind of like the background of that?
So they bought the house the year I was born in 1988, and at first it was kind of like their summer house. They'd go there every summer and spend the summer there. Afterwards, towards the last 15 or 20 years of their lives, they completely moved there.
Okay.
And so last 20 years of knowing them, it was in that house. Had great memories there. And I mean, I don't know Paris without knowing that house. And I've been to Paris every year of my life since I was born. So that street in particular has a lot of meaning to me. And just to be able to come here, I was very happy when Chef Richardson loved the name because I'm here every day. When you're in the restaurant business, you don't have days off. It's 7 days a week. It's 12 hours a day, no matter what. You need to do it. And so to come and to just be reminded by something very meaningful to me is something very special.
That's awesome.
Right.
Did your family have ties in France before your grandparents got the house out there?
No, not at all. Well, I mean, we're all French educated. There's a history between Syria and France. Syria was a colony of France, so a lot of people are French educated, so they have a lot of strong ties to France. They'd go there whether it's summer vacation, things like that. So I learned French before I learned English. I actually learned it before Arabic too.
Really?
Yeah. So it's I have a very strong connection to it, to the culture, to the country, to the cuisine, obviously.
Yeah. So with that being said, it sounds like the French culture in general, but cuisine specifically, is very intertwined with Syria and your upbringing. Then
a little bit. They're very proud about putting traditions in with their food. Their French have been they haven't mixed well with other cuisines. I would say that much. But it was more the other way around. You would see dishes in Syria that were inspired by French dishes. More so, I would say. But French cuisine it's in the category of its own. It's really... I was very fortunate to be able to grow up around it.
And so you end up in Arizona. You're going to college, right? What were you going to college for?
Political science.
Really?
Yeah, I graduated with political science. I'm still, and afterwards I went and worked in public policy. It's still I love public policy. I love doing things that will change things at a bigger scale. That's what made me fall in love with it. But I also love the customer service side of things. I love seeing customers happy right in front of me, and that's the beauty. Our business is very hard, but you have instant feedback.
Sure.
Unlike most businesses, when I was doing consulting, you'd prepare either a business plan or a project or something. You'd send it in. You don't know the feedback on it, and then it takes. But here, it's you're making the food. They're trying it. You see the reaction on their face right away. So I love that aspect of it.
And so is that kind of what your background is more so than food, is the business side of things?
Yes. The business side of things, definitely. I'm fortunate to have very talented chefs to work with me, and they take care of the culinary aspect of things. The only thing that I bring in, well, one of the things I bring in is I've tried different foods in different countries and different continents, so I can give suggestions that are a little bit outside of the box. But they're the ones that really come up with the brilliance on the plate. I take care more of the business side of things.
Sure.
Yeah, it's what I love to do.
Well, that's kind of nice to have in any business, right? Is someone who enjoys that, right? Wants to be involved in some respect, but doesn't necessarily have the ego to try and take over the whole thing, even if it isn't their specialty. So what is that like, working with different chefs and building out these menus and kind of handing the reins over to them?
It's been amazing. It's just been such a fascinating experience to be working with such talented chefs. I mean, we have Timothy Richardson, Jacob Stein, Matthew Brotnoff. Each one of them is just extremely talented in their own domain, and then watching them create and then seeing them brainstorm. I've been part of, I had to go back to the consulting, but I've been part of like doing brainstorming sessions in like a traditional aspect in an office and things like that, and you're throwing ideas back and forth. It's nothing compared to throwing ideas back and forth in a kitchen.
Really?
It's absolutely fantastic because you see people pull up ideas from different backgrounds that they have, different dishes that they've tried, and then some things work, some things don't work, and then you feed off of each other, and then you just keep like tumbling with each other until you get this beautiful, polished dish. It's been fascinating, and then every time they do it, they keep amazing me every time. I mean, it's been such a pleasure. It's really working with talented people and doing what you love. You just feel so blessed to do that every single day.
Absolutely. Well, and I'm not sure exactly what you're doing consulting on, but with that, I feel like I'm assuming that it was kind of higher stakes things, more so, kind of direct business implications, whatever industry you're working with. Whereas in the kitchen, it's not like if you change one thing a certain way that it's gonna, shut the doors down if you don't play it out in a way that works. So is what you're doing now, even though you're more involved on the business side, is what you're doing now more creative than what you were doing for a while?
Yes and no. Yes, it's definitely. So I used to do government consulting. So it wasn't. We did have some leeway. Like they'd come up to us with a problem, and we'd have to come up with a solution, and we'd have to think outside the box and different innovative frameworks. The beauty here, for one, let me say this. I don't have to come up with the creative things here.
Yeah.
I have very talented people that come up with that. I just take the credit for it.
Okay.
But it's definitely, it's a faster track from idea to play in this industry, so you get to see the innovation faster as opposed to the other, where it's just so many different wheels turning. This is such an instant thing where, like, you have an idea, it sparks innovation in your head, sparks different sparkles in there. You brainstorm with a couple different people on it, and then, bam, within a couple hours, you have it on the plate. And that aspect of it, how fast things get, I love that about it.
I'm curious if you can recall any menu items that you guys kind of had one of those brainstorming sessions and maybe an aha moment that turned out to be really successful.
Well, just off the top of my head, the one that we just did a burrata salad.
Okay.
And at first we had it with peach, and then we just added watermelon to it. So it's a watermelon cheese and balsamic reduction. And it turned out fantastic, and that's one of the things. So I've had a dish similar to it in Greece, in Mykonos. And Tim wanted to do like a summer salad. Jacob had some input on it. So it was one of those things where it started off somewhere, ended up somewhere completely different.
Mm-hmm.
Both are delicious. Both are great. But just that process of having to go through it, the three of us, and then coming up with that outcome, that's fun. It's fun and
what
delicious.
does that look like? Is that just you guys hanging out in a kitchen, if you can use that word, and just throwing different things together?
Absolutely, yeah. Hanging out. If it's late at night, there's usually some beers around.
Okay, I'm going to need an invite to the next one of these brainstorming sessions.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's absolutely a lot of fun because and especially if you enjoy working with the people you work
Sure.
with. You feel like you're hanging out with a bunch of friends trying to come up with a dish. This is my job.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of fun. I get to eat great food prepared by very talented people and just enjoy having amazing conversations with them about all sorts of things. And that's usually how it is. We're just sitting in the back, leaning against the fridge, coming up with different things, trying different variations of every single dish, a couple of different ways in terms of whether it's how you're cooking it, the amount of seasoning, whether this and that, a couple of different ingredients here and there. It's a lot of fun.
Well, and it's interesting because running your own business, particularly in the restaurant business, can be one of the most stressful jobs that you could ever pick in the world, right? You are essentially living your business at that point. You mentioned it. You work 7 days a week, no days off. And it probably feels like 8 days a week a lot of the time.
Absolutely.
But with that said, when you have moments like that, when you're in the kitchen with people that have become your family and you're just kind of doing what you love to do, that's really what you do put in those 8-day weeks for, isn't it?
Absolutely. It makes it all worth it because nobody wants to come to work and work all these hours with people you don't enjoy being with. But also to be able to do that and for it to be successful is just that much more special.
Mm-hmm.
You're absolutely right. I think I was dropped as a kid for I don't know why I chose this particular industry. It's hard. It's demanding. It's 24 hours a day. It's a million bad things. But once you work with talented people and it's working and it's clicking and you're moving forward, it's well worth it. You still are going to have to put in the time.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way around that, but it makes it worth it.
Well, it's funny because I have some family that I'll make, a very average meal, some burgers, but maybe I get some high quality cheese that takes it above your average burger. And whenever I do something like that, they'll be like, oh, you should open your own place up. And I'm like, no, I've got the best job. I just come in, talk about the food, take some photos, and have a few bites and move on, right?
That's the best.
I don't think you and I are cut from the same cloth in that way. I don't know if I could do the 8-day weeks.
No.
But so circling back to this place specifically, you mentioned, I think you said kind of like French-American infusion with some touches of the places that you've been, and I figure your chefs have been as well, right? What are some of the popular menu items that kind of embody what Foch is like?
So one of my favorite burgers of all time is... I
said Foch, it's Fush, right?
Foch. No, you said it right.
Okay.
Foch. Yeah.
Forgive me.
No, you're good. So we have a Gruyere burger, which is Gruyere cheese with a sauce au poivre, like a pepper sauce.
Okay.
With arugula. That's by far my favorite burger ever.
It sounds fantastic.
It's fantastic. The quality of meat we use here is fantastic. But that burger in particular is great. Our omelets are fantastic. I'm trying to think. The French toast is very popular. It's out of this world. Fried chicken sandwich is really good too. Everything is made in-house, so we do our own pickles, we make our own sauces. Absolutely everything is made in-house.
Okay.
But definitely if you like burgers, the Gruyere burger is fantastic. We have a duck burger as well.
Really?
Oh yeah, the duck confit is also very. We have it in an omelet as well. Homemade tomato jam with duck confit and an omelet is also fantastic.
So is it like a duck breast served almost like a chicken sandwich would be?
No, so it's the burger with duck pieces on top of it.
Oh,
with
okay, I
goat
understand.
cheese
I understand.
and some tomato jam. It's really, really fantastic.
I don't think I've ever seen something like that on a menu before.
We try to keep it very authentic and very delicious.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to be, definitely not going to be the traditional food that you'd see on Mill Avenue, but not your. So we're not a bar food here. We really try to elevate the food without elevating the price necessarily. So we're very proud of the menu, and like I said, the dinner menu keeps changing every month. Chef Stein and Chef Richardson just sit and brainstorm on it, and they come in, they're like, all right, this is the dish, this is what's coming on this month, and I sometimes try to think of things just to say I had an input, but most of the time it's delicious. I don't even need to do it. You know what I mean? Just so I feel like I did something.
Yeah, you're trying to come up with stuff. You're like, I got nothing. This is too good.
Yeah, absolutely. So definitely the burger you should try. The omelets are fantastic. The French toast is really good. But the dinner menu items are really good.
You mentioned that it's not typical food that you're going to see on Mill Avenue. And it's interesting because I went to ASU for about a year and a half and then went a different direction. I've eaten down here. I've been down here. But I've not been in this spot before. And we're, a half a block off of Mill Avenue, just kind of tucked around some other buildings. There's what looks like a beautiful park or something behind me here. It doesn't really feel like I'm in Tempe sitting at this table right now.
Yeah.
And also, it's 11:35 on a Tuesday right now, and I'm pretty sure school is out as well. So maybe it's a little different when things are bustling. But how did you end up in this spot?
So we really lucked out. We're really tucked in right across from the city of Tempe. So it's a beautiful spot. It really feels like you're sitting in a garden. And with the big windows that we have, it's a really beautiful scenery. So I have other locations on ASU's campus. Yes. So I know the landlord, and this building's actually owned by ASU.
Really?
And so during the pandemic, I was just walking around here because there wasn't much to do. At first, I needed a facility to do the juicing concept out of. Mm-hmm. So originally, this place was only going to be a juicing facility.
Really?
Yeah.
Were you planning to serve juice out of here as well? I figure like a retail.
Yeah. But I wasn't planning much on the retail. Most of my business is direct to consumer or business to business. Wow. So it was just going to be cherry on top. Mm-hmm. But then Chef Richardson, who was working with me at the time, really wanted to open up his own restaurant, and the place was just phenomenal. The location of it is great. And so he convinced me to do it. It was during the pandemic. All of our stores had just shut down for a year. I had no appetite to opening up yet another concept.
I like that pun there. Yeah, that was nice.
And then so I know how talented he is, and I saw the passion in his eyes. And I really and I knew if I was going to do this, I was going to have to spend the next year and a half just glued to him. And I enjoy spending time with him. I enjoy spending, seeing his talent being reflected on the plate. Mm-hmm. And I'm now, in hindsight, I'm glad I did it. I hang out here all the time. I love the food. I literally eat here every day. And that's kind of how it came about. We switched. We moved the juicing facility. We switched it to a full-on restaurant, and it turned out like a beautiful setting.
It's funny how that happens, isn't it, right? Yeah. You're looking for a place to do your juices. You find it, you're ready to go, and now you're not even doing your juices here, and you have a restaurant that you weren't even necessarily planning a couple years ago.
Absolutely. It's funny how things work out. I'm blessed. I'm very blessed.
So you mentioned that you do fresh pressed juices for your cocktails as well. I'd like to talk a little bit about your cocktail program. I feel like in an area like this, they're probably pretty popular.
Oh, yeah. definitely. We actually have a couple different deals that go on throughout the day, like Margarita Mondays.
Okay.
You get 50% off margaritas. And so the margarita, we have a prickly pear one that's delicious. We use freshly pressed prickly pear. We infuse our own tequilas, like you see behind me here.
Okay.
So they're delicious.
Yes.
They're very flavorful. We have Tab
That's very
Tuesday
cool.
where you get 50% off tabs. Wine Wednesday, 50% off bottles of wine. Thirsty Thursday, I think it's all day happy hour. So we have specials throughout the week.
Those are good specials.
Oh, yeah.
The only problem with Margarita Monday is that today is Tuesday.
We'll make an exception for
Sweet.
you.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel very special now.
The margaritas here are definitely fantastic.
Yeah, nice.
They're gorgeous. They're delicious. They're very colorful. Because, like I said, we use fresh press everything.
Mm-hmm.
Everything.
It changes a cocktail for
Oh,
sure.
yeah. And it changes. So even if you have a couple, the next day you're not going to feel as bad.
With, a bunch of bad sugar. When it's coming from fruit, it's going to make you feel better, of course.
Absolutely.
So how did you develop that program? Was that something that just kind of came along with opening up the restaurant, or is that something that took a lot of extra care for you guys to develop the way you did?
It was a process. So another concept we own, I started a couple of years ago, is called the Bodhi. It's like a healthy Chipotle style place.
Ooh, okay.
And there's 2 of those on ASU's campus. So in that, when I started that, I started juicing a little bit because it's a healthy store. So that's when my brother and I started playing around with the different juices. So the original recipes for AZ Liquids started a couple years ago when we were doing Bodhi.
Okay.
We would literally Citrus 01, for example, it's a very hydrating juice. We combined all of hydrating fruits and vegetables out there like apple, mint, orange, coconut water. And we kept changing the ratios until we came up with the perfect one. And then from there, it's been one contribution after the other. Matthew Brotnov, our operations manager, is very talented. He's a baker by trade, but he's just a very talented person in general. So he started coming up with different coffee ideas. We did the straight lemonade, which is a no sugar added lemonade. It's just apples and lemons, and that's all it is. And we have different variations of it, like a charcoal.
I thought it was going to be just straight lemon juice. I'm like, I don't know if that works for me. But no, that does sound fantastic.
Not quite. And we use it in some of the cocktails for the margaritas, so we don't have any added sugar in those.
Sure.
So it's really just playing around with it, having the right team to do it. And that's how it started. It started off with the Bodhi, and now AZ Liquids is actually taking on a life of its own. We're very popular online at azliquids.com.
Okay.
And then we sell to a lot of businesses across the valley.
And so what is it like juggling all of these different concepts and locations and having a personal life on top of that as well?
Well, you don't have any personal
Sure.
life. Yeah. You got to put that on hold. No,
Yeah.
The nice thing about... So the summer... in my particular case, the summers are very slow for us because we close 4 locations on campus. So that's usually when I have a social life. But the way you juggle it, I'm fortunate enough to have very talented people working with me. Matthew Brotnov, our operations manager, just makes my life so much easier. And Timothy as well. So you just have to be structured in how you go on by your day. You can't let things just, deviate you from your daily plan. Sometimes things are going to happen. But really, it's the talent that I have around me that allows me to be able to add on more things to my plate without having to, pull all my hair out.
How are you able to do that? How are you able to build a team that prevents you from pulling your hair out?
It's a combination of a couple of things. One, it took me a while to get the perfect team in place, a lot of trial and error. But once you find a person that you know that they're going to be talented, you just claw onto them. And then Matthew and Timothy both have a percentage in the overall company. And so really... it's human nature. They're going to work harder because they own part of it.
Sure.
And I want them to own part of it because they're going to work harder. And it's that by far has been the best decisions that I've ever done in 6 years of operating this business. Really? Bringing them in, giving them equity. It's so you're talking to them as partners, not like as employees.
Sure.
And the whole dynamic of the conversation changes. Everyone's giving you their honest opinion. We're really brainstorming with one goal in mind, which is the well-being of the company, not just today, in 2, 3, 5, 10 years down the line.
Absolutely.
So you have people with you, your managerial level employees are all thinking 10, 15, 20 years down the line. So from a strategic perspective, that's really where you want to be.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been the game changer for me.
Well, it's interesting. You say it's human nature, and it really is that simple in a lot of ways. Obviously, sometimes it doesn't work out, but if they're not ownership and there's a problem, they don't own that problem. But if they are ownership, they literally own that problem as well. So
yep, absolutely. And that's been great, especially with someone like Matt. Matt is he's very structured and very particular about things. So now that he owns part of it, he's going to be even more structured, more particular about things, which he honestly makes everyone around him better, including me.
That's awesome.
I'm very fortunate.
So, you've obviously got too many things going on to have any sort of personal life outside of summer. What are you adding to that next? Because I figure there's something on the way, right? Or maybe you even don't know what it is yet, and then a year from now you're going to have a whole nother concept.
Well, we talked about because we were planning on opening up another crepe club and another Bodhi.
Is this before you opened up this place?
No, after. So this was supposed to be going on right now in the summer.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of put a hold on that. We're having trouble staffing the locations we currently have, and we're not really utilizing it, each location we have, to the full capacity. So until the labor issue is fixed, inflation's back in a bottle, and we feel like we've utilized every location, then we're going to move forward with future expansion. But for now, I want to focus on what we have. AZ Liquids help grow it more, get more and more business-to-business partners, and then probably open up a couple more concepts.
Yeah, right.
There's so many different ideas, because once you get bit by the bug, it's in you, man. You just see it everywhere, and you're like, oh, I bet I could do this like that.
Yeah.
And then it's fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I'm yet to try the food here today. You built it up, so it better be as good as you said.
I hope so.
But I feel like not only do you have a passion for it and you're extremely talented, but this is why I love business and just life in general, is because the fact that you went to ASU, I don't know how big of a plan that was, for the years preceding your attendance at ASU, but it's crazy to see how that and many other factors have led for you to have such a close relationship beyond your graduation with ASU. When you look back on things, is it surprising to you to see where you've ended up, or is it kind of just like, it would have been this or somewhere else?
Oh, yeah, absolutely surprising. So I've gotten a couple letters from Dr. Crow, president of ASU, congratulating us and me on the success we've had. Just walking, I still feel surreal sometimes. When I don't know if you remember, you said you went to ASU. Sometimes at the top of the hour, every hour, the clock rings, and during class, so now I walk around and that clock rings, and it brings me back to some days where it was so stressful during a finals or something, and I'm like, this is the end of the world. Now I look back at it and I see that I have all these locations here, and I grew my businesses here, and I'm finally in a comfortable place because of this place, because of my studying here and growing my businesses here. It feels very surreal. I really can't explain the feeling. But did I think that I was always going to be successful? Yes, probably. I knew that I wasn't going to stop growing until I get to my destination. I'm not saying I'm at my destination now.
Sure.
I just know if it wasn't going to be food, I mean, knock on wood, I don't know, but if it wasn't going to be food, it was going to be something else. It's just, you just got to keep rowing until you get there. Just keep swimming.
Yeah, well, you've got this kind of mellow ambition vibe that you put off of, just like exactly what you were saying right there, right?
Okay.
Like, I don't know when I'm going to get there or exactly how it's going to be there, and that destination is probably a moving target as well, but I'm going to keep going in that direction, and if I have to make a pivot, I will.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I've done a couple of pivots in my life.
Yeah.
It's just part of life.
Yeah.
If you're not trying and failing, you're not trying hard enough. It's like, when toddlers learn to walk, they're going to get up and fall. And after the first fall, they stop trying to walk. No one's ever going to walk. You just got to keep trying to fall. And just try not to land on your face. But even if you do, just pick yourself off, dust yourself off, and go at it. Well,
and it's one thing to say those words or have them on, like a wooden plaque and put them on your wall, but it's a whole nother thing to live by it. And, you definitely have proven that you embody that mentality because, this place should have been a juice shop, and it's not that anymore.
No.
So I'm curious, too. You've been here for a while. How much has Tempe changed?
Oh, it's almost a completely new city. One, you definitely see it rising in terms of like height. You see all these high-rises and offices. Really, we had a new mayor, Corey Woods, that just came. He really cleaned up the city. You don't really see. We had a big homeless issue here. Now that's cleaned up. You have a lot of businesses moving here. I believe KPMG, which is a big consulting firm, moving in here. We have big corporations moving in here. You really see it kind of shift from a college party town to a more working professional, higher age, more sophisticated taste and talent in this city. And the mayor's doing a great job. The city really cleaned up. I'm just been so fortunate to see. I mean, when I came here, Tempe Town Lake was just lot 59 for ASU, where we used to go tailgate. Now it's got all these State Farm buildings and all these hotels behind us, and it's just beautiful to watch. And now they're talking about putting in a hockey stadium. Just being part of this growth for the last 15 years has been unbelievable.
Yeah, I could have sworn I had a faint memory of Tempe Town Lake that wasn't surrounded by giant buildings, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and that's got to be, pretty exciting for you as well, being so rooted in this community and offering a service to people as it grows and grows and grows. Every time a new high-rise gets built up, you're probably smiling. You got a little smirk in the back, just waiting for some new customers to come
Absolutely.
in.
Absolutely. And then, so the mayor comes and eats here all the time because we're right across from his office. And I always see him with big plans and, different people coming in to build different buildings.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, all right, show
almost
us the
like
money,
a little
man.
bit of like a mafioso thing. You're bringing him over special drinks.
And he's such a great guy. He's such a talented guy. Very down to earth and very loving. Everybody loves him. And it's just watching him work this hard for the city I love so much has just been very awesome.
Well, it was such a pleasure sitting down with you, man. So cool to hear about all the different things that you have going on and what you've been able to make happen in a town that is ever-changing and will continue to change, of course, going forward. So thank you so much for sitting down.
I appreciate you. Thank you for coming down here.
Awesome. Yeah, and I can't wait to dig into the burger and a margarita and come next Monday and
Let's do
come
it.
with an empty stomach as well.
Let's do it.
Fantastic. Thanks
all right,
again,
thank
man.
you. Appreciate you.